Changing the Sales Game on webtalkradio.com. I'm your host, Connie Whitman. You know that I'm excited that you're here this week with my guest and I. Now, as you listen to the show, I get it, right? When we hear the word sales, sometimes we freak out. If we're changing jobs, looking for more clients, whatever it is in your sales realm to help you with your communication, kind of a key skill when we talk about sales skills. In the show notes, you'll find my link to the communication style assessment, my gift to you. You will get 2 reports. One will spotlight just your natural communication superpowers, how your message is landing for the other person you're speaking with. Important to know, lean into that, build from there. Secondary report is your lowest score, which I feel is even more impactful because it's how your message is landing for people who speak or communicate 180 degrees different than you. So again, link is in the show notes, my gift to you. I hope you find it useful. Now, my motivational quote, just to set the stage for the topic today, is by Nick Haase. And Nick says, "You only have so many hours in a day. Let others make the money for you." You know, in my career and business, I always felt like, and I'm sure a lot of you feel this way, oh, no one could do or deliver or duplicate the job that I do. Well, our working life teaches us differently. And this quote, I felt, nailed the topic for me. The reality is we just can't do it alone. And if we do it right by building just a high performing team behind us, man, oh man, the results will speak for themselves. And here's the objective, right? Work less, make more, sign me up every day. So who is my amazing guest that we are going to discuss this make more, work less kind of vibe? Her name is Kris Ward. And Kris is a good friend of mine. She's the founder of Win the Hour, Win the Day. And it's a whole philosophy that she's built her business around. Now, after losing her husband, Kris returned to her work as a marketing strategist full-time. She was relieved that her business had not only survived her absence, but actually had grown. Now, Kris has completely changed the landscape for entrepreneurs by sharing the successful practices that allowed her to grow in her absence. Now, Kris has shared the stage with amazing people like Jack Canfield, Chicken Soup for the Soul, Kevin Harrington from the Shark Tank, one of the original Shark Tank dudes, Sharon Lechter, Rich Dad, Poor Dad co-author, and Joe Theismann, we all know, NFL All-Star, and of course now commentator. And that's just to name a few. So Kris is an acclaimed podcaster, and you can hear her podcast, Win the Hour, Win the Day, covering various business topics so you can get to your next level of win. Please help me welcome Kris to the show. So Kris, thanks for being on.
Oh, anytime. I would talk to you all day, Connie. I'm thrilled to be here.
I know we have too much fun when we talk, Kris.
Yeah.
Hey, business should be fun as well as we're learning, right? Learning, support, and growing.
100%. Business should support your life, not consume it. And it most definitely should be fun.
Absolutely. All right. So of course, you know, my first question, when should we start to build a team, especially if we have new people, new entrepreneurs or new leaders? When is it the best time to start?
So first of all, team is a powerful word. And what I want people to understand, it's not a number, it's a philosophy. So you can have one VA and not be a team, right? And you can have 5, 6 people and not really have a team. So it's really the philosophy we teach when we hire on board for our clients and we put the VA through a leadership program. So that's a whole thing in its own. And really, when should you hire? I would say day one. And if you didn't, okay, then today's the day, right?
Yeah.
You absolutely, the time when you don't want to work crazy hours, when you want to be highly productive, when you want to be focused on the real work, when you don't want to be caught up in all the pre and post work and the admin work that has nothing to do with your zone of excellence or the service you deliver. And when you want to have more impact with more people, provide more services, make more money and work less hours. If any of that sounds attractive to you, that's when you should hire.
Yeah. And you helped me with that. When we first met, I was a hot mess, Kris. I had all of these great things that I had created and I was doing, and I was successful in spite of that need to control everything. And as soon as you helped me shift my philosophy, mindset, all those things, I was able to breathe. I stopped working weekends because I was ultimately working 7 days a week, if you remember. And so changing that philosophy, and here's the more important piece of that, Kris, I think, and I'll talk from my own personal experience, of course, it freed my mind from the admin crap of deadlines you got to do, and did you send that out, and did you upload that, and I was so inundated with thinking about that stuff that when I came time to create, do a video, teach, whatever, I was literally exhausted. So my zone of genius was being put to the test, borderline exhaustion, because of all the admin stuff, where I could have hired someone to do that. So that shift of when should I do it? And I love what your answer is now, today. If you haven't, do it now, because it really does create that scalability of working less, making more. And it's so easy. So that was my experience.
And you know what? That's the experience of all my clients, really, because here's the other thing. You had been in business a long time,
Yeah.
and the people I serve, that's the thing. They look really good on paper. They look successful, but they're working way too many hours at this point in their journey. So are you getting it done? You kind of think you are, but to your point, that's a powerful point, is people think hiring someone is going to take more work and I have to train them and they can't do what I do and all this stuff. Well, you're following the parentified thing we've all been inundated with in the corporate world. You become a manager, you supervise, people beneath you, and that becomes your full-time job. And it's a whole thing, right? And also because you're set up, I think you had hired before working with me as well. And then, so what happens is the setup is you throw a bunch of work at someone like a task puppet.
That's
and
right.
then when they get it done, they come to you and they need more because you're not set up for this. And so then they feel like interruption to, like, I'm over here trying to get stuff done, and now you ran out of work, and I got to find you more work. And, the tail's wagging the dog. And so that's where we talk about, we taught you how to do Scrum meetings, and we talk about how to use your calendar and super toolkits and all those things. You're right. Set you and whoever you're working with up so that you can always increase the bandwidth on your calendar and get to the next project. Because if you wrote one book, you want to write 3. If you spoke on one stage, you want to do more. Whatever it is, the whole idea to get through your current project is it's only going to create more work. Like when I wrote my book, Win the Hour, Win the Day, I was like, oh my gosh, okay, this is done. It's done. It was like, there should be a parade. It's done. But then I needed to promote it and go on podcasts and pitch podcasts. And that's more work, right? So we always want to have the bandwidth to do that. And you can't do it if you're running around without a team.
Absolutely. What's funny is you were describing that. I remember when I started in sales, over 40 years ago now, and I'm dating myself, right, Kris?
You must have started selling in grade 2.
Yes, that's exactly right. Came out of the
counting
womb
those
selling.
popsicle years. I sold popsicles in the schoolyard. Yeah.
You're crazy. It's interesting though. I saw other people, right, because you learn by observing as well from people who are much more senior than I was. They had been in the insurance and financial industry for 20 years, and they were making phone calls, or they had their spouse go get licensed so they can make phone calls. So I was a kid. What did I know? But I hired someone. I interviewed and hired someone. She was excellent on the phone, so that I could then have her make the phone calls, because where was I making my money? Yeah. Being out, talking to people, meeting people, getting referrals, right? Building my business. And that was a game changer back then. So now, isn't it funny? We're talking about the exact same philosophy, concept, whatever you want to call this, right? But fast forward, why didn't I do that with my business? Isn't that fascinating? So I had learned that skill or that philosophy young, and then I forgot about it, being in corporate, right? Because it's exactly right. We're trained in corporate. You have a team, support your team. You do your work, right? Usually you're in meetings if you're a leader, and then they're, the minions, if you will, that you're supporting are the ones doing the work. We could be so much more efficient with this philosophy. So it's just so interesting how you have these reflections.
Yeah. But the thing is, when you start your own business, and people say this all the time, it's like, oh, it's like my baby. I'm like, listen, have you ever had a baby? Have you seen people with babies? They get all the help they can get. There's daycares, there's school. They're happy to ship that baby off, right? So you get this false sense that you're the only one can do stuff. And even if you're, have this really unique zone of genius, there's always pre and post work, right? Yeah. Yeah. And so, and also I would say to you, you probably thought, okay, great. That was a corporate world. I could afford that, but now I can't afford help. It's my business. Well, first of all, we're looking at $5-6 an hour for a VA that's incredibly talented, and you can definitely afford that. If you can afford coffee, you can afford that. And you don't need them full time, especially in the beginning, right? We never start them off full time. But the other thing that I would really lean into is, here's a quick example. I had a client when she first started working with us, and she's an interior designer. And she's like, Kris, you don't understand. I go into the room, I see stuff. Yes, I'm trained, but like I have to do it. I have to see it. And her average appointment was 2 hours. And of course, like everyone else, she said, this is a unique situation. You don't understand. So we looked at her appointments, and I don't care if you're a brain surgeon, there's always pre and post work. And so we looked at the forms that she thought, through asking questions, she had to sit there and blah, blah, blah. Well, we were able to get her appointments down to about 45 minutes. And not only did it allow her to be much more energized and focused when she was there, because all the admin stuff had been done, but she quickly moved to then having all her staging or design appointments in the morning. And she started speaking on really large stages and working with, like, being an MC for some events like HGTV and all kinds of stuff that she would have never had the opportunity to do so just by making that one shift. And again, she thought, you don't understand, my situation is unique.
Yeah. Yeah. Good is the enemy of great. When things are going well, we think, it's good. As soon as things go bad, we make a change. But what if good could go to great, right? We forget that piece of the puzzle where we can work less and obviously make more. What do you think the biggest myth is about team building that you hear from your clients once you show them the way, right?
I know for me, many years ago, I thought that, well, once I got to a certain level, I could then afford a team. It's like, oh, you have to climb the mountain. And it's like, well, when I get there, that's how, these big people we admire, it's like, oh, they have a team, they can afford a team. Well, they would have never got to where they are without a team. You hear any success story in the world whatsoever about anything, and it always starts off with, 2 people in a garage or whatever. They had someone. And now there's simply just no excuse. We're talking incredibly affordable resources internationally. It's awesome, right? So I think the big myth is thinking it's going to take you more time. And a lot of people come to me, they've tried it and failed. And that's because they weren't set up correctly. Again, back to the task puppet. So you need a really basic setup so that then you're not struggling with, what I call the biggest mistakes in building a team. And one of them is dumping, delegating, and dismissing. You're dumping stuff on them, and then they just go busy work and come back to you. You're delegating. Delegating is a lateral move. The work still comes through you. You have to have things in play where they have independence and can work on that. And then you're dismissing them as the expert that they are by just using them as a task puppet. So that's a big one there. Also, I really want to mention this because this isn't talked about enough. Now that the world is sort of coming awake with the power and potential of VAs and the affordabilities for entrepreneurs, and it's an amazing time to be in business, be cautious. There's a lot of agencies out there.
Yes.
And the agencies, if you listen to my show, I've interviewed a couple of the VAs that worked with us and things like that. And what happens is the agencies make you sign, the VA sign an NDA, non-disclosure agreement. So you might be paying that agency $10, $11 an hour. And I will back up for a second and tell you that they will just assign someone to you. You're still not set up for it. It's not going to work. And it doesn't. I deal with clients all the time. Like, I've been through my third person. I'm in a 6-month contract with the agency. It's not working. VAs don't work. It's because they're just throwing somebody at you. It's kind of like me sending a chef to your house, Connie, saying, this is an international acclaimed chef. And they show up and they're serving French cuisine. And you're like, my husband's a barbecue person. Like, it doesn't matter how good they are. You're not set up for this, right?
That's right.
So you're paying the agency all this fee. The VA is not getting it. And they sign an NDA, so they can't tell you that. And it's just a flawed, it's just it's just a horrible system. So be mindful of that. We do it for our clients when they start working with us, mostly. And we're not an agency. We don't pay them. The pay doesn't come through us. You pay them directly. But we do it just because we don't want the clients to have that learning curve. We will teach you how to hire others on your own, but we just want to get to it because you need that person to do the other things that we're going to implement. But the dismissing, delegating, and dumping are the big mistakes.
And it's so interesting, Kris, because and I agree with you 100%, because I'm constantly approached by these VA agencies. Hey, we have these VAs. we can, pony them up for you. And I think, no, I'm good. I have my VA. So it's interesting because let me just share now to build on what you just said, personal experience. My VA, I got through Kris. I've had her 3 years. She is more than a VA. She has become my partner in crime, if you will. She comes to the table with ideas. She handles all the tech for me. I send her stuff now, Kris, and I think, oh, I like the idea of this. What do you think? Come back with a business plan for me. Let me know if you think we can use it with my stuff. Or can you investigate this AI? Is it useful or not? I don't even waste my time reading it anymore. I don't have the time. She vets it out. She knows what my business is. She knows what I'm like. She knows what my zone of genius is, and she knows what her strengths are. So all of that helps. The other thing I just wanted to comment on, you trained her, you onboarded her. I think we started with 5 hours initially or 10 hours a week. And you were guiding me on what to start to give her and how to build that relationships through the meetings and stuff like that. And now 3 years later, she truly has become a partner. The other piece of the puzzle, though, Kris, that was important for me is not only did you help me get the VA and educate her and bring her up to speed, I didn't have to do a thing other than communicate with her with what my objectives were. You had me, through the group coaching and all of those things that I participated in personally, where you helped me shift my mindset of, oh, that's another thing I could give my VA, because it's not just one conversation with Kris and you get the VA and you go off to the races. There's so many moving parts and there's so much capacity within what you're building with that person, but you need to change your mindset. I needed to educate myself because I didn't know what I didn't know. So that was I felt like it was a 2-pronged approach with you, Kris, where I felt safe because I knew that you were vetting the VA out and onboarding them and what have you. But on the flip side, I felt like you were having me meet them halfway with what you were teaching me, because I had deficits and I'm a good leader, but I never had a VA before, right? So I had never had a VA for my business before. It was a whole different trajectory of when I had employees and my corporate job. It's different. It's just very different.
Yeah. And you brought up a couple really good points. I feel like me and all my clients say this too, is I feel like I have peers. So I come to my Scrum meetings in the morning with my team and I'm like, oh, I'm thinking of doing this. And they're like, well, we could do it this way and that way. And I really get to flush out ideas. I'm not presenting as this is what we're doing. And okay, they might have a few token thoughts. No, I am clearly the dumbest person in the room when I meet with my team, and I'm fine with that. I was like, I make a joke that I'm like, if this was a board, like a public company, they would have me out because they're all smarter than me now. Right. So for sure, you really get to lean on your team instead of this whole parentified way we're used to in the corporate world, which you spoke to that you're saying, well, I thought I was a good leader. But how you lead in the corporate world is very different than what you're looking for when it's your own business and you're building a team. And the team is going to be very different than what you saw in the corporate world. And I think to your point is it wasn't about mindset. I was giving you different strategies that were, once you put that's a thing. Everyone hears about systems and processes, and we have the super toolkit. Systems and processes are, usually very static in nature. They're not written by the end user. They're just there to cover liability. And people think, oh, I don't want that, because as an employee, they have these silly things that they were choked by and like, oh, we have to do this way, even though it's been outdated for 5 years and the corporate doesn't know what they're doing. Where the super toolkits are breathing documents that constantly allow you to have more and more bandwidth on your calendar. And they're just always evolving. And so those things that we put in play, those very basic infrastructure for you, gave you so much more freedom. And you're right, to your point, is then when you sit down to do work that's important, you don't feel like your brain has been through the paper shredder. There's no reason why you cannot start work refreshed and leave fresh.
100%, and not work 90 hours a week, right? I wanted to share one more thing. So I have one client, been working with them for a while now. And in one of our meetings, it was a group, they do my video workbook and then we do group coaching, right? And so we're in the coaching and so it's very hands-on. And I said to the group, I said, we're building an infrastructure for you, right? We're building a database of questions. We're building, the value statement template, right? You have that. You're going to a networking event that has only attorneys in it, right? Centers of influence of attorneys. It's different than when you met with your client. It's a different value statement, or at a networking event where it's all small business owners, right? So when I said to them, we have to systematize everything we're doing. Yes, sales is having communication and all these soft skills, but you have to have a system in place so that we can infrastructurally build it up. And now you have a new employee coming in, you're building a culture. Great. You have a new employee coming in. Now I'm the manager with that new employee. I have the infrastructure built where I could say, okay, we're going to work on open-ended questions this week. Here's some really dynamic, perfected open-ended question that we've rinsed, repeated, they work, and here's where I want you to learn, instead of saying to the employee, so I'm going to teach you what an open-ended question is, and then we're going to develop some for you to use. We have the templates there. So now if it's a younger person versus somebody like you and I, Kris, right, where we're a little more seasoned, they're not going to say like, oh, it was lovely meeting you. They might say, hey, it was really awesome meeting you. So the template is there of the messaging, but you have to make it yours. So we can build that infrastructure. So systematize everything. And when I said that, the one executive said, I never even thought about that. How else can we use these systems in other areas? It happen to be a bank, right? In the bank. So this systemization, once you have you call them the super toolkits, right? So once you have what that pre and post looks like, right, of the pre-planning for a business development meeting, post after the business development meeting, and all of that is systematized, man, oh man, am I working smarter, not harder? And one last thing I want to talk about. I did a business development class that happened to be for the same client about October last year. Anyway, when we went through it, and I said to them, you realize that business development, 90% is preparation. And everybody looked at me by the end of the class, they were like, 90%, you're crazy, right? By the end, they were like, holy crap, I could get all of that done. I could get all of that systematized. So now instead of saying you got to do more business development, now you've empowered me because you've taken time that now I really can go do more business development because all this other stuff has been systematized. It's brilliant. It's a brilliant model.
It's a total framework. And what happens is then you're giving your best self all the time because, I had a strategy call with someone. We offer free strategy calls all the time. Please sign up because you get a lot of wins. You get like you just get so excited by the things I can show you in a short period of time, and they're free. Why not take that and work on that? But then the follow-up with that is, here we're giving her our best self. Hey, you might want to watch this, or you might want to read this PDF, and we're picking it from our best. And then it's just, my team sends it out. It's great. And so it's done. And I know that I'm giving them my absolute best. And to your point as well, Connie, a lot of my clients, what they find is you're right with the super toolkits, and we teach you how to run your team and your scrums and all this other stuff, is then they pass that knowledge off to their clients. And then they look like the hero because I deal with service-based businesses. So you now get to say, hey, look how smart I am. I'm going to help you save time because I know how to do that. Right. So it really does make for so much more freedom and so much more earning potential and so many less hours because, there's no reason you can't be working school hours.
Agree. And it's funny too, because now you're showing up. You're right. He was like, wait, I never thought of it that way. And so, but I say, hey, listen, I learned this. We're always learning. So I'm always evolving. So you as my client, you're always getting the best of me because as I improve or I see something, even if it doesn't help me, but I know it's going to help you, I'm constantly learning and sharing because to me, I don't want to be just the consultant or the trainer, right? I want to be your partner so that together we can amplify and grow, right? And have each other's back and whatever it is where they give me refer, whatever it is.
Let me jump in because what's happening is you're not trying to keep up, Connie. Because you have that framework and because it's so easy and you have the bandwidth for creativity and you have the freedom and you're not burnt out, then you are always going to be over delivering more and more because you're not doing that thing that you were doing before everybody else is still doing where you're just trying to keep up. I'm just trying to keep up. And I've had people and say, if you can own it and admit it, because I'll tell people, you may look and say, I want my business to grow. I need more money. And you're like, but you have to speak to your soul. Can you handle more business? Or do you know when you get that client that pays you that somebody else is going to be annoyed at you in the next few weeks because you're dropping the ball? So you're no longer trying to keep up. You have the freedom and the enjoyment and the capacity to be constantly improving because you're building on your success.
And one other thing too, I want to comment on, you were saying about the VAs before. We are, and you kept using, their expertise, but we are truly in a global COVID. I mean, as bad as it was for certain things, it really taught the human race a lot, and it really started to impact our global economy. But us as individuals, you're in Canada, right? I'm in Jersey in the United States, so we have this, the depth of knowledge and capability and access is greater because now my VA, right? She's 23. She's in the Philippines. She's, a bazillion miles away from me. But what she sees and what she hears in her culture is now impacting my business. And I mean that in a good way, right?
Yeah.
So there's such expansiveness with this global market now because the talent out there isn't just, well, I need an assistant in New Jersey because I live in New Jersey. I have the whole
Yes.
world that I could tap into. And that, think about the zones of genius out there. The innovation becomes exponential and a heck of a lot easier to get there. I just wanted to comment on that. I meant to mention that before.
Well, that's a really good point. And I know you're a hockey mom. So what I would say to you is if you're going to pick a team for hockey, would you rather them be local or would you rather pick the best players around the globe? Which one do you want to take to the competition? So you are so right. You don't then are limited just by your local, capacity. And you then don't have to give somebody extra hours, which often when you go into a store or a service and, you don't get the customer service you want, what happens is somebody's had to hire someone, like say back in the day, it's like, oh, I need a video editor to do my videos, but I only have like 4 hours a week. So then you start giving them something else because you're not going to get commitment from them for 4 hours a week. So you're like, well, I got to give them more hours. So then you start getting them to do other things that are not what they love to do. And so then their skill set gets diluted. You're paying them for things that they don't want to do and they're not doing it well. And so that really, as I say that though, be mindful when I talk about teams, to me, a big team is like 4 or 5 people.
Yeah.
So you don't need a whole bunch of other things. Most of my clients need 1 or 2, right? Social media and a VA person.
Yep.
And you can do an incredible amount with that.
Absolutely. I have one more question because we're almost out of time, but what are the 3 Ds and why are they so important?
Okay. You know your stuff. Okay. So the 3 Ds are damaged overhead, delayed income, and diminished opportunity. And when you don't have a team, damn it, oh my God, I can't talk. Oh, I'm stuck. Damage overhead is you are the most expensive overhead in your business. And you don't realize that because you think I have to do it all. And so what you're doing is what you're not bringing in business. So if you could sell your service, even for say something simple math, like $100, then how many things are you not bringing in at $100 when you're doing the busy work? Right.
Right.
And then we talk about delayed income. Well, let's talk about a customer that you could have had in January and you didn't get till June. How much money did you lose there? And if they could have given you 1 referral. And then the most painful of it all, when you're trapped in the web of admin, is diminished opportunity. And diminished opportunity is like, oh, Connie, I wish I'd known you did that. I just signed up with somebody. We're committed for the year. And because you're just so busy in the busy work with your head down trying to keep up, you're not out there in your zone of genius building out the business. And so those are the 3 Ds that people just don't talk about enough.
And you said it, before I met you, it was for my whole career. I mean, this is just how I'm wired, I think. And I just want to ask you one more question about the quiz you created because I loved it. But just really briefly, when my life, it was the nose to the grindstone, work harder, work harder, work harder.
Yeah.
And then, meeting you again, I don't work weekends anymore. I pretty much Mondays are my catch up days. So I sometimes take it off, whatever. Right. So I'm working so much less and I'm making so much more because I'm able, not because I'm just upcharging everything, because I have more clients, because now I have more bandwidth. But I never forget what I was going to say. The diminishing returns. I think it was about the diminishing returns. So what happens by meeting you and me shifting just my whole business model, I am doing so much more. I'm meeting so much more. So instead of my nose to the grindstone, and if you're not watching the video, you're on Apple, I'm putting my head down. When you're looking down, you're not looking up. So how many opportunities over that, 19 years did I miss? Because it was the nose to the grindstone, not looking up and saying, well, I know all of that admin's taking. What opportunities are here? New opportunities that are right in front of my face. So how much opportunity did I miss for that first 19 years? That makes my brain want to hurt and explode, by the way. Last thing, the quiz. Tell them about the quiz, and then we'll share what we are.
Okay. So after working with so many entrepreneurs, I really noticed a pattern that they fell into one of 5 categories, right? So we've got this quiz in the free gift from Kris.com, free GIFT from Kris, KRIS.com. Check it out. People tell me all the time, oh my gosh, Kris, you just got right inside my head. And so we're all a little bit of a lot of personalities, but there's going to be one that's predominant. So we talk about being a rushaholic, focus-itis. There's a whole bunch of different things in there. And I would encourage you, a perfectionizer, I would encourage you, because there's strengths and weaknesses to each one.
Yes.
And there's a superpower, but there's also things that you have to go over. So I am what I call a recovering rushaholic. And I thought that speed was my superpower. I got a lot done. I moved quickly, get out of my way. You might even notice I talk fast, but I have really slowed down, but I thought that was my strength. And I did not realize I was skimming over things. Everything was a rush. The adrenaline was always going. It didn't allow for deep thought or focus. I didn't understand the details I was missing. And I also I wasn't bringing an enjoyable energy to the room that I was entering. And I will tell you, in case you ever wonder, Evan, who works with me, I said this once, and it does not work when you ask somebody to speak quicker. They do not warm up to that. So I was always on this, like, go, you're talking too slow, let's go, right? And I thought that was how I was helping my business. And it was my weak point. And so understanding your power personality and how to work around it, hugely helpful.
And so I took the quiz, guys, and I know you're going to be shocked. I too am a recovering rushaholic.
Yes. Yeah.
That's why I love you, Kris. And it's funny because what you described, and Evan is a delight. I love him. And he is so calm compared to us. But here's the thing. Think about what you said. Talk faster. We can turn people off, think, I am not working with that maniac, right? Yeah. So instead of being a great boss, right, or a great leader or whatever, we are actually diminishing the value that we give ourselves, but the value that we put on other people. And without realizing it, like, oh, I love Evan. Well, he felt like, I'm putting him down because I'm rushing through everything. And he thinks, well, I just blew another meeting. So it's that internal talk. We think we're doing great and it's a superpower. Meanwhile, the havoc we're leaving, the wake of destruction behind us is it's not okay. It's just not okay.
No. And so like for focus-itis, you really have a laser like focus, and that's fantastic, but you have to know where to point the laser. So there's definitely strengths to each one, and how you lean into those strengths will empower you.
Yeah. So here's the deal. If you have questions for Kris directly, email her, krisward@winthehourwintheday.com. Website, check it out. winthehourwintheday.com. And the big bonus gift for you is free gift from Kris. Kris is with a K, by the way, .com. I will put all of that in the show notes. Please go take the quiz. Check out all the cool stuff that Kris has. Trust me, this will change your life. And oh, by the way, even because I have a lot of corporate, right, Kris, I play in the corporate world.
Yeah.
All my corporate peeps out there, check out Kris's stuff. Trust me, she can streamline, help you build a real dynamic team. Even if you already have a team in place, there's so many remarkable tools and resources, and it's probably still worth having a conversation with Kris. She's brilliant. Listen, man, this is not her first rodeo either. And you've dialed in. And it's funny because, after your husband had passed and your business had grown, you had foundationally built so many beautiful things. And now, man, you've just amplified since then and just have refined and refined and refined. And now you're just spreading the word and sharing the wealth with everyone. So I'm honored to have you in my life, my friend. You know that. I love you. And I really hope that people reach out to you because you are a needed resource. And I'm just going to say in business, period, not just for entrepreneurs.
We have corporate clients as well. Yeah. And I'll say one more thing. Thank you for all your kind words. You're just you light up any room. You're such a fantastic human being, business person. And I've learned so much from you, but because you are so special for your audience, we also put in the free gift from Kris.com, we put free audio version of my book. So grab it quickly. because it's not going to be there very long. So the free audio version of my book is in there for you, Connie.
I love it. Thank you so much. And I'm gonna download it. Even though I read the book, I'm still gonna download it. Kris, as always, just a delight to have you on. Thank you for sharing so much wisdom. And thank you for sharing a different perspective. I think people feel defeated sometimes when we don't know a better way or we don't know another option, we feel defeated. And I think you've shined some light on several different aspects of business, corporate, whatever, for leaders, really, whether I'm leading a business or I'm leading a team in an organization. I just think there's so much value here and so much depth of knowledge, information, help, right? There's a lifeline. You have a lifeline in Kris. Tap into it, grab onto it. Thank you again, Kris. Thank you for tuning in. You've been listening to Changing the Sales Game with me, your host, Connie Whitman, on webtalkradio.com. Here's the deal, everybody. Kris gave you several tips. I shared my own personal story and my pivots that I made after meeting Kris. Information's beautiful, and I hope you learned from it. Yay. If you do nothing with that information, it just sits in your brain. Take one tip. Don't try to take 10. Take one tip. Apply it into your life, your professional life, and maybe even your personal life in some way. And trust me, with action comes reaction, which comes magic at the back end. We are here to shine our light brightly. Please do so and use the tools that Kris has provided, the conversation we've provided. Go back and listen to the show again if you need to, but tap into Kris. Trust me, she's a gem. It'll change your life. Take action, everybody. I love you all. I will see you next week. And you know I am honored that you're on this journey of changing your sales game with me. I'll see you next week. I love you, everybody. Have a great one.